This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast. All right, Fact Check This podcast, episode 44, and Andrew Cuomo is all in the news. And a year after he was in the news for all of the right reasons and his wonderful response to COVID and saving all those lives that it turns out he actually just totally murdered. Now he's back in the news this year because apparently he is a sexual deviant. He now has 3 accusations of sexual misconduct or just inappropriate behavior in a sexually harassing manner towards a number of aides, plus just another like random person from a wedding. And the great part about that one is there's even like photographic evidence of it, and all of these, or pretty much all of these accounts have backing and corroboration that they are legit. And like, if any of this was actually the true case about a Republican governor, like Ron DeSantis or anybody else, the media would be absolutely crucifying these people. But with Cuomo, it's getting a very, very mild amount of coverage. Like it's not the number one story on anything that I've seen, at least not, yesterday. They're running it, but it's getting suppressed to an extent. And the crazy thing about it is like some of the stuff that came out about Cuomo and covering up COVID numbers and all of that, and then his own party, like other Democrats in New York, throwing him under the bus, saying that that's just the way he acts, like he's a bully, and they're not surprised that any of that was happening. If this was a Republican, they would have absolutely murdered them. Like, there would be calls for resignation. There would be investigations on state and federal levels. Like, everything. The gloves would have absolutely come off. And they would be trying to run these people out on a rail. But it's Cuomo, so he gets to apologize and explain it away and act like he didn't understand the situation, and or they were misinterpreting his meaning, or he didn't know that he was doing anything inappropriate. Hey, fuck you, dude. That's you are a skeezy piece of shit, and you know it. And now you got caught, and you're trying to backpedal and save your own ass. If this was anyone other than their golden child, they would be absolutely going after their throat immediately. And there's no point in getting into the hypocrisy of the way the media covers all of this stuff, because they don't care. They absolutely do not care in any way about the hypocrisy of any of it. Anytime you try to point out the hypocrisy of the media or the Democrats or any of those, that just let that thought run through your head and then just let it go, because it's a useless argument. For hypocrisy to matter, they have to actually have some level of morals and principles and give a shit that they just completely lack. Like, it doesn't matter to them if they are complete hypocrites in every single thing that they say and do. So there's no point in saying anything about it or going after them for the hypocrisy side of it. Like, you have to hit the facts of this dude is a total skis ball and has contributed directly to tens of thousands of deaths and is a sexual deviant, like inappropriately behaving around people, women specifically, on multiple occasions. And if these are the ones that are coming out, what are the ones that aren't? Like, if they actually had this kind of hard evidence on a Brett Kavanaugh, it would have been a legit case. These are multiple testimonies with, or not testimonies yet, I mean, it's accounts, accusations, but like with photographic proof and witnesses to corroborate the story. Like, it is just insane. And then continuing on with the looking at more Democratic governors who are just total pieces of shit. There's a headline from let's see, MSN today, that they are investigating Gretchen Whitmer for let's see, there are calls to investigate the governor amid allegations that she paid $155,000 in hush money to a former health department director. So a lot of these exceptionally locked down, super tyrannical Democratic governors are now coming under fire because it's being shown that a lot of the shit that they were pulling through the pandemic to justify their lockdowns and to kind of show what a good job they were doing, none of it was true. And they were paying people off and covering shit up and hiding the truth of the matter. Like, it is insane. And then Governor Gavin Newsom in California, he's up against a recall. Like, they're trying to recall his ass because all of his and California might be very possibly the worst of all of them. Like, I don't know if anybody's taken the time to look through some of the restrictions and the regulations and stuff that they've got to go through, but it is some of the most archaic, just blatantly dictatorial bullshit that you will ever see. And like, none of it's based in science or even good common sense. Like, it's just all total batshit crazy. And like, how can people still be clamoring for this? Because yesterday, Texas announced that they are 100% open, no mask mandates. And quietly at the same time, Mississippi did the same thing. And the overwhelming response on a lot of social media was all of these just total brainwashed fucking sheep saying what a terrible thing that is and how all of these people are going to die and you're trying to kill grandma, and they need to have suggesting that there need to be the travel restrictions from Texas to California. And I would guarantee you that 99% of Texans would absolutely agree. There should definitely be travel restrictions between Texas and California. And keep all your California asses in California and quit moving to Texas. But you know, like, you've seen this all along the way. The Super Bowl was supposed to be this like massive super spreader event, and it was just gonna basically eradicate the entire population of the state of Florida. Florida's been open for months, and their numbers are doing the same thing as everybody else's. They're in decline. They've never even seen the high-end spikes that California and their completely locked down state have seen. So, like, obviously the numbers don't back any of this. None of it's based in fact or even good common sense. Like, if you think that everybody needs to wear a mask, you are more than welcome to wear a mask. If you don't think anybody should leave their home, you are more than welcome to stay your ass at home. But you don't get to tell me what I can do or what I should be allowed to do. And the government shouldn't be allowed to. These are personal health decisions. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the government is responsible for making sure that you are never exposed to any risk whatsoever. And that's what they're trying to do. Or that's what they pretend that they're trying to do. What they're actually trying to do is just completely dictate our lives from start to finish, from birth to grave, and decide how much we make, when we make it, where we go, what we do, what we eat, where we travel. That is the actual goal. And it's total bullshit. And everything about it is completely insane. And the fact that we've allowed it to go on this long, because that's what it is. We've allowed it to go on this long. If everybody just walked outside, threw their mask down on the ground, said, fuck this, and went on with life, what are they going to do? They can't round us all up and put us in jail. They can't like just keep enforcing or trying to claim that they have these dictates that we have to follow. If we just say, no, we're not going to follow them. Like, this country was founded by a bunch of guys who dressed up as Indians and threw tea off of a boat. We need a little bit more of that kind of behavior. We need to walk outside, get rid of these masks, and say, we're going to live life. And if you don't like it, come fucking stop us. That's where we need to go. That is the radical kind of change that we need to see. All the rest of this, it is total insanity. And we need to stop it. And on the topic of insane shit, apparently Dr. Seuss is a racist now. I mean, we've gone from Mr. Potato Head having to be non-binary to the Muppets being racist to Dr. Seuss is now racist. Like, literally everything is just completely fucking racist. There's nothing in the world that's not racist anymore. It's not even... So, like, the things that they keep wanting to classify as racism or racist, like, I've talked about this before, and it's something that I feel like needs to be hit on repeatedly because in our modern society, it's becoming a very unpopular thing, but it needs to be hit on. It needs to be talked about. Is that words actually have defined meaning and like implications, and they are taking those meanings and implications of words and just twisting them to mean whatever the fuck they want without any regard for factual backing or evidence. Or evidence or anything of that nature. And they're just anything that could potentially offend the most pussified piece of shit motherfucker is going to be deemed as racist or sexist or what the fuck ever. And it's completely stupid. Like, the things that they are claiming are racist about Sesame Street and no, well, not Sesame Street, the Muppets and Dr. Seuss, and they are stereotypical. They are typecasting. They may present something in a way that is meant to be humorous that with our modern, just overly sensitized, dumb society that we live in could potentially come across as maybe offensive, or at the very least, or at the very most, I would say like in poor taste, possibly. But like the Muppets, there's nothing that's like gratuitously offensive about the characters that they use. Like, they may portray certain stereotypes, but they're fucking Muppets. Like, if they don't portray any stereotype at all, you don't have any grounding for, like, otherwise they're just like weird looking dolls. So, and the same with the Dr. Seuss, the way he would draw stuff, like, without some sort of a frame of reference, you don't, like, if anything, it's inclusive. It adds diversity to the content. But we're canceling all of this shit because everything is racist. That's the point that we have reached, is that absolutely everything is racist and it doesn't matter. And now the new Amazon logo, within a week of it being released, had to be changed because apparently the new like box with the Amazon smile and the piece of tape all across the box, it made people think of Hitler. It looked like a little Hitler mustache, is what they said. And so that offended people. So the logo had to be changed right after the logo was changed because it looked like Hitler. And the fucked up thing about that is there's a article I shared with a buddy yesterday that's going around that like these new generations coming up, Gen Z and whatever you want to label them, the younger generations, they don't even know who Hitler was. Like, they have no fucking clue. They've spent the last 5 years referring to anybody that disagrees with them as literally Hitler, but don't know who Hitler literally was at all. Like, have no historical background or reference for Hitler. And that's another thing, like Nazis and Hitler and all of that stuff. Like, it's another case of where words have lost their meaning and their value and their actual weight, because it was a funny thing to refer to people as Nazis if they were in opposition of something fun, or, like, or whatever, like the soup Nazi from Seinfeld, and like, you refer to people as the fun Nazi because they don't want anybody to have fun. Like, Nazi and Hitler, they became such commonly thrown around terms that they have completely lost all meaning. And now not only have they lost the meaning, but they don't even have any historical context or understanding to connect them to anything other than this bullshit that just gets spread throughout society rampantly without any level of factual backing. It's absolutely fucking insane. Like, instead of Make America Great Again or Building Back Better, how about we just make people not be fucking stupid? Let's up our education levels to get people to actually understand history and context and where all this stuff comes from and what it really means and what it's rooted in and founded in and grounded in, because all of that's been lost. I've made the reference so many times, and I'm almost sick of making the reference, but at the same time, it's such a valid reference. Like, if you read 1984, that's what happened. They erased history. They didn't understand where any of this came from. The only things that they knew were the things that they knew from recent memory, and all historical context and all backing for anything was wiped out. And that is where we are going. It's not where we're going. I mean, we're almost fucking there. It's on a daily basis, I sit and look and think, like, I need to pull my kids out of these horrible fucking public schools and just start homeschooling them so I can actually teach them the real stuff that they need to know, so that they aren't complete fucking lemmings like everybody else in society that have no understanding, knowledge, background, anything about the real world and where the world came from. Because if you lose history, if you forget the context or like how we got to those points to begin with, then everything going forward is meaningless. And you're only going to make things worse. You're never going to learn from those mistakes and those historical points of like change and where things turned and needed to be addressed. I mean, all of that gets lost. And then you just move forward with destroying the planet like we are right now. And I don't mean destroying it in some like environmental way. Like, we are destroying the planet by being terrible fucking human beings to each other because nobody understands what these words mean and where they came from and like the context of where we are as a society. It's just fucking infuriating. And we've got to do something to make a change, and it's not gonna happen until like too many people are content to sit around and say, well, they don't understand and they don't want to understand, so I'm not going to say anything. Like, I'm just going to stay out of it. I was there for years. I stayed out of it. And we can't continue to stay out of it. Like, you've got to present actual facts and help people understand. And even if you only reach 1%, that's 1% more that can start doing the same thing and trying to reach out to people. And it it has to happen, and it has to grow. We've got to gain understanding and knowledge of the world that we live in now and where it came from and how we got to this point so that we can fix it going forward. Because right now, all we're doing is tearing it down further and further. And maybe that's what it takes. Maybe it has to be a complete collapse. And I'm not against that. I've been accused of sounding like a collapsitarian on multiple occasions, and I'm perfectly fine with that title. That may be what it takes, and I am not opposed to that. I am not afraid of any eventuality. I have a preference for it not to go that way, but I also have a very realistic understanding that that's possibly the way it's going to go. And if that's the way it goes, then we need to make the most of it and fix it on the other side. That'll do it for today's episode. I will be back on Monday, where I'm going to have a conversation with a buddy who is very well versed on public education and charter schools and all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to sit down and have probably a long talk about how all of the education system and everything in this country works and what's actually going on there, and some things that should be paid more attention to make positive changes going forward. So please be sure to check back on that on Monday. And in the meantime, check me out on YouTube while I'm still there. This will probably be the next strike to get me permaban, but I'm on BitChute and they don't remove content. And then I'm all over the place too: Facebook, Twitter, MeWe, and News Live, Minds. You can find me all over the place. Just look for me. Hope everybody has a good rest of your week and an excellent weekend, and I will catch you on Monday. Thanks.